We're gonna start in a minute. This was the ticket that I got for the gala premiere. I'm just talking to my audience here.
Oh, you're talking now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But when the red light comes on, I'll shut up.
I can't hear you with the headphones.
Oh, okay, fine. She can't hear me, which is a good thing. All right.
We've been listening to CPE Box, Sonata in F sharp minor, played by Mikhail Kvetnov.
我哋啱啱欣賞過 C.P.E. 巴克佢嘅升 F 小調鋼琴奏鳴曲，作品 WQ 52當中嘅第四首，由鋼琴家比利尼羅夫演奏。
The time right now is 8:30. It's a Thursday, and that means Howard Elias is sitting across from me in the studio, and he is here to review Deadpool 2, and we're going to find out if it was worth making the sequel. Was it?
Well, it's still early days. It just opened the other day. I don't think it's even open. I think it opens Friday in America, but we got it a few days earlier. Interesting, it opened on a Tuesday. Usually films are open on a Thursday. Here it opened on a Tuesday, and I think because next week Solo, a Star Wars film, a Star Wars story is opening, and I think the studio wanted to grab as much box office cash as they could, although the reviews are out for Solo, and they're not that good.
Ooh.
So I'm going to see it next Thursday. So unfortunately, I won't be able to review it next Thursday because I'm seeing it Thursday night. But I'll review it in 2 weeks' time. But anyhow, so Deadpool, is it worth it? Well, let me just tell you, when the first film came out 2 years ago, nobody expected it. Well, very few people expected that it would do well because it's a movie. You were asking me just before we started, what's this about? Right? And this is a movie about a motor-mouthed, self-aware anti-hero who mocks not only his own comic universe, but the competing ones as well. And that sounds pretty risky, but the script is also full of profanities and sexual references, and I won't give you examples.
Please don't, yes. Okay.
You can imagine.
So it's for a more mature audience.
Yeah, interesting. Well, so the studio Fox would have preferred that the film would have been more PG, but they realized that if they cut the film to pieces to get that rating in America, and I suppose elsewhere, the movie just wouldn't have worked. So they let it go. It went on to become the highest grossing R-rated film. R-rated is like category 3 here in Hong Kong. Went on to become the highest grossing R-rated film worldwide so far to date, with a box office of $780 million off a budget of a paltry $58 million. And I say paltry because for a superhero film, that's pretty cheap. You know, the Avengers film that we had just a couple weeks ago is estimated to cost about $300 million. So $58 million is pretty cheap. So
does it have to do with the story? Does it have to do with Ryan Reynolds? Does it have to do with the direction? What does it have to do with that?
I think, yeah, I think it was a cosmic coming together because he really makes the film. It's the perfect character for him, because if you've seen films that he's been in, his specialty is zippy one-liners, and Deadpool is a zippy one-liner type of comic character. So it's the right character for him. And I think also the direction was good, and I think they took a huge risk by going with the R rating, and it paid off. And because of that, they realized Marvel and I guess Fox and Disney, which owns the other Marvel franchise, they said, oh, we can make R-rated superhero films. So Logan was also R-rated, and I think we're going to be seeing a few more R-rated films. Does that mean that 13-year-old boys don't get to see it? No, I'm sure they do. Somehow they'll find a way to get to see films like that. But in the cinemas, it's 18 and up. And it was interesting. I was telling you just before we started.
Is it more to do with the language or the actual anything physical nature in the film?
Well,
it's strictly like the innuendo and
it's the innuendo. Well, it's interesting because the Deadpool character is pansexual, and if you don't know what that word means, please look it up. So they couldn't. I think the studio and I guess the writers said, well, we can't show everything, because I think audiences just wouldn't go that far. So he does use a lot of innuendo. He does do a lot of teasing. And in the first film, at the very end, there was a cartoon of him and a unicorn having fun together. So that was how they showed that he was pansexual. So there was actually worry whether, well, concern or curiosity whether this film would go even further. And in fact, even last week, the director was saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to go further." They don't go further. It's a lot more innuendo. So if you're worried or concerned about that, no, there's a lot more innuendo. That's all. So now let me talk about the film. But yeah, the film starts here in Hong Kong, which was quite interesting. Although it probably wasn't Hong Kong, it was probably a soundstage in Vancouver, because that's where they film it, which is where Ryan Reynolds comes from. He's Canadian, yay! You know, the Canadian Ryans. You know, you got Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling are both from Vancouver. So the film begins in Hong Kong, and we see our hero, our superhero, Deadpool, who's comically known as the Merc with a Mouth, Merc being mercenary. The Merc with a Mouth. He's busy dispatching various bad guys with his arsenal of guns and twin katana swords. Now, events take him back to the Xavier Mansion. If you know your X-Files, you know Charles Xavier, the character made famous by Patrick Stewart and now James McAvoy. So he gets taken back to Xavier Mansion, where Colossus, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, go see the film, where Colossus again tries to convince him to join the X-Men, but he doesn't really want to. You know, he's a loner. But this time he says, "Okay, I'm going to join," and they make him a trainee, which is quite humorous because he has to wear a trainee outfit over his superhero costume, which is quite humorous. And when they hear about a young mutant named Russell Collins, and Russell is causing havoc at a mutant orphanage where he lives. And Russell, who calls himself Fire Fist for the obvious reasons, he has fists of fire, right? He claims he was physically abused at this orphanage. But whenever Deadpool's involved, nothing is simple. Because not long after Russell is subdued, another mutant shows up by the name of Cable, who's played by Josh Brolin. And Cable is a cybernetic mutant from the future. He arrives on Earth to kill the boy. Now, after Wade's fiancée, Vanessa, tells him that his heart is in the wrong place, Wade decides to form his own band of mutant fighters to take on Cable and protect Russell, the boy. And that's all I'm going to say about the film. I don't want to reveal anything more than that. You have to go see the film. Now, if you liked the first film, you will like this one too, because it's pretty much more of the same. There's lots of violence. There's lots of spiffy stunt work. The director, David Leitch, who previously made Atomic Blonde, and he made John Wick. He was one of the two directors of John Wick. He was a stuntman for many years. So there's lots of stunts, and they're very well done. There's lots of wisecracking meta-humor. You know what meta-humor is? Meta-humor is when you know what you're in a movie, or you're very self-aware of who you are. So he makes jokes about being a superhero. He makes jokes about being a Marvel character. He makes jokes about, he'll say things like, "Cue the music," and the music will start. So he knows he's in a movie, and he makes jokes like that. And if you read the Deadpool comic, the real comic, it's very similar to that, where he'll say things like, "Oh, the rope Marvel gave me is so cheap. They don't spend any money on me. They'd rather spend it on Wolverine." He makes jokes like that. Mm-hmm. So that's what Ryan Reynolds, he delivers those jokes very well. And so as I said, there's lots of shade being thrown at Marvel, and there's even shade being thrown at DC, which is the Superman Batman franchise, which isn't doing nearly as well as the Marvel franchise. And he even makes jokes about himself, about Ryan Reynolds, which is also very funny. So, I think, especially there's one scene, Marvel is very famous for having two post-credit sequences. They always say stay right to the end. Hong Kong audiences love to leave as soon as the credits start. Do not stay right to the end, because there's two post-credit sequences, and one of them, he pokes fun at himself as Ryan Reynolds. So it's very funny. Now, in this sequel, if you've seen the first one, you will recognize many of the supporting characters, including taxi driver Dopinder, played by Karen Sony. There's Blind Al, played by Tony Award winner Leslie Uggams, who is just wonderful. There's Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I love that name. Played by Brianna Hildebrand. Apparently she wasn't supposed to be, or that character wasn't supposed to be in the first one, but they like the writers and Ryan Reynolds loved the name Negasonic Teenage Warhead, so they said, okay, we got to have her. We got to have that character. So Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who's a gay character, by the way. So this is, for people who want to see more inclusion in films, here you got it. And there's a mercenary bar owner. The mercenary bar owner, Weasel, played by T.J. Miller, is back. Now, I don't know if you were aware, Miller was arrested last month for phoning in a false bomb threat on an Amtrak train in, I think, in Connecticut.
Wow.
And he's out. He's out on a $100,000 bond, but it's a very serious. It's a federal charge, right? I think he can go to jail for 10 years or something like that. So this might be the last time you're going to see T.J. Miller on the big screen in a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why he did we know why he did it?
Drunk.
Ah.
Apparently he's
He needs rehab. Okay.
he needs rehab. Yeah. So
Another one.
yeah, another one. Now, unlike the other Marvel films, if you haven't seen the first Deadpool, you're going to struggle with this one in terms of knowing who's who and what their relationships are. So I would suggest before you see this one, go see get a copy of the other
You
one.
need to see the first.
I think you do need to see the first one. I mean, you can get by without it, but I think to really understand who's who and what's what, you need to see the first one. If you haven't, I think, and you go see this one, Cole, you might be a little bit shocked at the language. There was a young woman, local woman, who brought her octogenarian grandmother to my screening the other day. I thought that's either one very hip grandmother, or she's about to have a heart attack. So
Did you speak to them afterwards?
no, I
Did you
didn't.
see them?
No,
Did they walk out?
I left and I thought afterwards, I should have taken a look to see. The grandmother probably fell asleep. I'm sure she probably fell asleep. But I thought,
What, with all this action going on, apparently?
I thought to myself, as I saw them coming in, and I thought about the young woman, what are you thinking? I would never bring my parents or my grandmother to this sort of film. Although I think my mother could handle it. But
Okay, so what does Deadpool accomplish in this film?
well, he kills bad guys, and in this film, he's because of his fiancée Vanessa, he knows that he has to protect a good boy, or he's actually a conflicted boy. So he's a good guy, Deadpool. He just is he has his quirks, like all superheroes. They have their quirks. Most of them have daddy issues. You think about Batman and Superman, and a lot of these superheroes, they have daddy issues. Deadpool, as far as we know, does not have a daddy issue. He has a sex issue. So in that respect, he's different. I would say, though, he's wonderful. I would say, though, the best thing about this film is an actress by the name of Zazie Beetz, Beetz, Zazie Beetz. She plays the supernaturally lucky mutant named Domino, and there's some wonderful banter going back and forth between her and Deadpool about, well, what's your, he says, what's your mutation, and she says, I'm lucky, and he goes, that's not very cinematic. And there's some wonderful stunts where they show her being lucky, and it is very cinematic. So it's very funny. And I thought she was really enjoyable to watch. Now, if you do like her, you're going to be seeing her in a lot of films over the next couple of years. She's apparently currently involved in 7 film projects, ongoing film projects, that'll be released over the next couple of years, including apparently an X-Force movie, which reportedly is going to co-star Ryan Reynolds and Josh Brolin, and it's starting to shoot in October. I think it's due out sometime toward the end of next year.
And I think she's in the series Atlanta.
Yes, apparently, which I've never seen. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't seen it. So, yeah, apparently she is, yeah. So I really enjoyed her. Now, we all know fanboys and fangirls who, whenever they go see a Marvel movie, they go, this is the best film ever. I don't think, if they're going to say it about this film, I think they're slightly exaggerating. This is not the best film ever. This is not a great film. It's fun. It's well made, but it's completely forgettable. So,
But you could see a Deadpool 3.
oh, for sure there's going to be a Deadpool 3. Yeah. This is going to make $500 million at least. And, it's, again, being with the meta humor, there's one scene where Deadpool and Weasel, the bartender, make jokes about whether there will be a Deadpool 3. So, yeah, for sure there's going to be a Deadpool 3. So I'd say, it's a better than average film. It's a fun film. It's an enjoyable film. Not a super film. If you're a fan, you're gonna love it. If you're curious to find out who or what Wade grabs this time, go see it. If you're interested in, exploring sexual peccadillos, go see it. That's all I'm going to say on that, because this is a family show.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, it was fun. It was fun. And the question is it better than the first one? Well, it's about the same. About the same. So if you enjoy the first one, you'll enjoy this one too.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you very much.
Okay, see
How
you.
it lies.